Well, those are the headlines that we're tracking for you today. Edtech company Physics Wallah has raised a big $210 million Series B funding round at a $2.8 billion valuation, which is a 2.5 times jump over its last round. The round was led by Hornbill Capital, with significant participation from Lightspeed Venture Partners alongside investors like GSV and WestBridge. This is also the largest fundraise by an Indian edtech in the last 2 years and comes amid what is a tough funding environment for edtechs in India. Physics Wallah is going to use the funds strategically to scale operations, pursue inorganic expansion and enter the K-12 formal education segment. For more on these plans, I have with me Prateek Maheshwari, the co-founder of Physics Wallah. Prateek, thanks very much for your time here on CNBC TV 18. You know, it's a large fundraise of $210 million and the valuation has also jumped 2.5 times from your last round. You know, how easy or hard was it to raise this money given the current funding environment? And, you know, what really justifies this big jump in the valuation as well?
Thank you, Ritu. Thanks for inviting me. Given the track record which we have performed, in past 2 years, the revenue jumped 12 times as compared to FY22. So, and team have team have shown the sheer execution in terms of revenue growth, profitability. So I would say there are no bad times for good companies. So we could able to pull off this entire round in 3 months of time. We started preparation by May, June, and concluded everything by September.
Well, Prateek, since you brought up the public markets, we also understand that Physics Wallah is now looking to test the public markets as early as next year, that you've already called a bunch of investment bankers for IPO pitches next week. What are your plans on this IPO front? How soon do we see you go public?
So yes, we have invited investment bankers to understand, it is more of a knowledge session from top bankers of public market, and we wanted to understand how this company if we want to list ourselves, we want to assess the readiness of the company. So yes, we have invited iBankers, and we will be having a closed door sessions with our partners and iBankers next week. So, and it can happen next year, it can happen next to next year. We haven't put a timeline towards it. This is the time which we want to list ourselves, but we are in a process of assessing this process.
Let me get back to the funding then, Prateek. How exactly are you going to deploy this $210 million that you've raised? When you're talking about scaling business, what sort of consolidation are you eyeing? And as far as acquisitions are concerned, do you have something on the radar?
We are open to partner with some company who have a good cultural and academic values with them. But having said that, no wish list right now and no active conversation as at this point of time. This capital which we have raised is more of a comfort capital because because the team grew very far, by 10 times. So now it's a 15,000 members family in Physics Wallah. So we thought of raising this capital and it is more of an inbound interest from a couple of good private equities which came to us. Along with that, we are sufficiently capitalized to fund our growth initiatives, be it any innovative category which we are starting or Vidyapeeth expansion. We generate enough cash to fuel those initiatives. So it is more or less it will lie idle in treasury, and the use of proceeds I could only think of inorganic merger, which may happen, may not happen in 12 months of time.
So are you saying there's been no talks between Unacademy and Physics Wallah, as reports suggested? Is that something you're not looking at?
So we are not talking at any current edtech unicorn or any private equity or VC funded edtech in India right now. So we believe in building from ground. That's what have worked for us. Starting categories from scratch, build versus buy. We always prefer building in-house because that gives you end-to-end control on the entire value chain, and there's no active talks with any of the Indian tech startups.
And on your customer base itself, at what pace is this growing? Only 55 lakh paying students at the moment. To what extent do you expect that to grow, and the average revenue that you're earning from these students, both online and offline?
So from last year to this year, the entire base grew by 50%, and so does the top line also grew by 50%. If we talk about Vidyapeeth, we started 2 years before, offline Vidyapeeth and Pathshala, from 0 to 2 lakh admissions in just 2 years of time. That makes us the third largest player in offline segment as well. And at a group level, like, we are like, in terms of revenue, in terms of profitability, that makes us the largest growing company, or in terms of absolute as well as in terms of growth as well. So the the last year the student base grew by 50%, and we are expecting something similar growth in upcoming years also, in between 30 to 50% growth in the student base for upcoming years as well.
What would that mean in terms of your financials? Your FY23 net profits, of course, they were down by more than 90% at 9 crores because of the rise in expenses. And now you've also said that FY25 is going to be the year of largest absolute EBITDA profitability for the group. What makes you so confident? And, then what would FY25 look like in terms of top line and bottom line growth?
23 to 24, 2.5x growth in revenue. 24 to 25, it's 1.5x growth in revenue we have achieved. And in terms of moving forward, we believe that this strategy we are going to continue. We will focus on sustainable growth and student NPS. But in the Q1 of this year have been profitable. Q2 is also profitable, and this year we are anticipating the highest absolute EBITDA in the history of the company. So the sustainable growth is something like core principle of the management, and we'll continue to achieve that.
All right, that